Hello, everyone. And then Mr. Easy is right there talking. It's fine. Welcome to our piano and workshop. And let me share my screen. Boom. Right. Today we are going to talk about how we teach active listening and balance in solo piano and piano duet settings. So in this workshop, we'll this is an overview. So we'll talk a little bit about like how we practice, how we help our students practice, and then we'll play a little game, and also how we phrase our words. Maybe use some analogy when we talk about these two techniques. Okay, so how we teach active listening in piano playing. First, we need to ask them, what are we listening for? So it's kind of like we recognizing the certain sound in the playing or in the certain musical content. Just like when we in the crowd of people, and then you will pay attention to what your crush saying because well obviously it gets your like attention more. So we need to set up the certain expectations for our students when they try to achieve this technique. So now let's play a little bit game. Let me share my sound. So I want you to listen to this short musical example. Do anyone know what is that from? Dr. Justin.
Nice choice.
Yeah, I really love Brahms. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
from Brahms Piano Trio, Opus 8. Um, now I want you to really be careful. Just listen to the inner voice in the left hand. So this is the next one. And now we're going to jump back to listen to the original and then see if we can recognizing that better. Because before we are easy to get like our attention is easy to get distracted by our melodies. Okay. Do you feel a difference? Yeah, probably already like you can bring out the your ears can pick up the inner voice in the left hand more. Now, so this is a little short game I usually like to play with my students. Is like when we trying to find a certain voice line, especially like I don't know, have anyone um teach can the canon in D in for their students, and then in the arrangement usually they like bring out the like they merge the melody line with the inner voice inner like chord and harmony in the right hand, and then so I will like play only the top melody first for them, and then I'll play the entire piece again, and so they can locate the melody more, or it can be used like we just did for the inner voices. Okay. And then when we applying active listening in the piano playing, first usually when we try to bring out a particular voice lines, so we highlight the specific melodies or harmonies in the music for our students, and another scenario is the transitions between phrases and voice lines. So it can be in the like just between phrases, we will listen to the certain volume or the tone color at the end of the phrase to the and also the beginning of the next phrase. And usually it happens in when we're teaching fugues as well. That's it. And also, this can help our students to recognize the certain musical changes like dynamics, tempo, etc. Um, so far, any questions? No. Now, wait a second. Here, we have another one. So the fourth one is I call it ear placement. Um, when we play, when we try to apply this technique in the piano playing, is like we need to hear in a certain point in the entire room. Especially when we in the piano duet. I usually like to ask both of students try to listen to like the certain in a certain direction. So most like in the middle of a room, and I call it like you need to place your ear there. And it's kind of like the energy we talk about, like when we are in a room with a crowded people, and then it's easily for us to locate our when our crush is talking because we are listening to that direction. So for them, they will try. I ask them to place their ear in the maybe middle of the room, or and it can experiment a little bit like between them. So like here, like if there's a people here, and you put between those two people, or it can be moved to the end of the piano, and then usually it requires a very like a high attention when they try to do this exercise. But I think I found out it's very helpful when we do this. Um, do you have any experience when you try to teach active listening for our students, for your students?
Um, honestly, you're reminding me that I should probably do it more often with my students. Um, yeah, it's interesting because I remember I had a harpsichord teacher, and obviously on the harpsichord you can't have dynamics, you know, and you can't voice the different layers.
Yeah.
But she would always point out that I can tell that you're not hearing the middle voice, and somehow just listening to it would change how I played it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I like it's a really good reminder for me to incorporate it in my lessons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's probably not for the early stage students, but for like when they in start doing some intermediate level pieces, or
Yeah.
even just like when they just get into stage two, yeah, they
Mhm.
can start thinking about this kind of aspect instead of just, oh, I follow whatever the notes. Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
And Mysteries, do you have any like, experience that you would like to share when we teach active listening for your students?
Sure. So, I have you talked about like the visual element of it yet? Like analyzing the score. You probably did, right? I saw a score earlier. It normally starts there, and then having the students play like particular voice lines, like you said, not necessarily bringing them out, but just like isolating and playing only those. So I have a student right now who's playing the Merry Farmer, for example, and there's a part that goes da 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 da, right? But there's also the left hand who's doing like a harmony thing,
Mm-hmm.
ba da 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 da, and then there's also like the middle parts that are like those little chat chat chords, and
Yeah.
so having them start with like one layer and then having them do the top layer and the bottom layer together and then having them do the middle part by itself just so they can hear it. That's kind of how so it starts with them actually playing it before they listen. I'm very curious to see how that will look like in my lessons now that I have them listen to it before they play it. So either way, it'll be kind of cool.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like before we are just playing the game, like just bring out the certain voice and then in the like without saying anything and then see if that changes our hearing when we listen to the melody again, the music passage again. Um nice singing by the way. Let's move on to I like that. Like, it's very easy to recognize what song it is. I cannot do that. All right, now, so active listening is kind of like you mainly rely on your ears, and talking about balance or teaching balance to your students is when we reflect to um in our playing, and it's more like involves more physical for our fingers. So we will talk about how we teach balance between two hands and how we practice that, and then how we practice fixed balance, and maybe also mention the variable balance to our students. So this is like my to go methods when I teach balance between two hands for my students. So first is we use extreme volume for each hand. So it can be, it doesn't need to be like right hand need to be certain thing, but usually it's like melody will be extremely loud, like fortissimo, and then left hand will be pianissimo, and see how that goes. And then they will also require like a very slow tempo to achieve that, especially when they play together, play both hands together. That's the first step. And second step is we experiment different articulations for each hand. So they are still that we are changing the articulations on the score. So maybe the melody is actually legato, and then left hand is also legato. But I will change the melody to staccato, and left hand or accompaniment can be legato. And I found out that it's actually very helpful for them, because when you do legato, it requires more active movements. So it kind of help them. And also you can combine them together. You can say, okay, staccato plus fortissimo, and then legato with piano or something. And obviously slow is always helpful, so they can listen to their playing more carefully. And after all that, I will ask them, okay, how we make decisions about our balance ratio. So it depends on the score. So if for example, sometimes our accompaniment has more notes, like chords or intervals, basically more than two notes at one time, and versus our right hand has like one note in the melody, then we'll decide, okay, how soft we should do for our left hand, something like this. Here is an example I want you to try if you have piano with you. It's George much by Mozart. So let's do the first one, which is right hand extremely loud and left hand extremely soft. I'll give you a little bit, like 1 minute to try that. And I can try as well. Thank you, Dr. Justin. It's putting it in the air. Yeah. And I usually do like right hand will be very loud, and the left hand will be very soft, like. So, and I will ask my students to really pay attention, like observe how my hands move when I play those in that movement. So like this, my right hand will be very active, but I'm using all my weight, and the left hand will be like I basically don't move at all. And then sometimes they feel like it sounds ridiculous, but it's actually very helpful when we go back to in a normal way. And then the second method we can try is right hand with staccato, like everything is staccato and heavy. And then left hand is legato and maybe soft. Well, and obviously in a slow tempo. And after that, we can try to play regular. And at that time, when they do each practice, well, first they need to observe how their hands move, how they manage their arm, how they manage their wrist, how they manage their each finger, how they like manage their muscles to all that, and then remember it, and then practice, right? Like do some repetition. And another about the decision is like left hand, we have two notes at the same at that time. So we will do like make these two notes even softer compared to the first one. So sometimes we will need to also talk about the arm movement and wrist movement, drop roll, all that, and or the attack speed for the certain things to achieve the result. And then let's talk about the practice, how to practice the fixed balance with your students. So we'll unify the touch. So it's kind of like we can take that Turkish march as example. So we have for those staccatos in our left hand, we won't do like suddenly we have a faster attack speed or heavier weight on the random intervals. So that's why I mean like unify the touch. So like the touch will be matching for the certain voices. And the wrist and arm support. So we'll be like use the same movement when we play. So for example, let's move that. Yeah. So for my, I'll do this for the first note. So I have a little drop roll here, like a smiley face from right to the left, every time I play the A. So the A has the fixed balance compared to other notes. And also when I do these three notes, we have the same lifting movement. So they also sound the same, regardless the dynamic change. And then for the fixed balance, when they have the transition between hands, I usually will tell my students not to how to say that, certain hand need to, if there is one hand like they do the better job, then the other hand will try to learn from that. So it also involves with observation. So like for example, if the right hand has a melody and suddenly to change to the left hand, then if the right hand is doing like this motion, then the left hand also can try to do the same motion and see if that helps to maintain the balance. This is another little exercise that we can try to apply that. So I want you to try the left hand if you have a piano. And for the first time, let's try to bring out the top note. In your left hand. So I will do, sure, I'm showing it. So I have this movement to the top note. Then I will do the same thing for here, and this, and this. And then combine them together. And then, so only I'm trying to just use my thumb and my index finger with this movement, and other notes I just straight down. Just the other notes. And you can also try the other way. Maybe this is better. It sounds better already. and then so what I did is do this down up movement, like kind of like you push in, you sink into the key. But my gravity is actually focused on my thumb, and also I'm trying to keep my thumb and index finger like as solid as possible. Other notes it can be like flat, like just play by your finger pad. Yeah. So there are like certain like many experiment you can try when you try to bring certain things out. Now let's try to do the lower notes, just the lowest note, and see if we can just use what we just talked about. So maybe we can use the same thing, the push forward, but mainly focus on the third finger and fourth and fifth here there. So for me, everyone has a different hand situation, but for me, I will do this. So smiley face, right hand, right side to the left side, drop roll. That's easier for me to bring out the lower bass line. Any questions so far? No?
I have
Okay.
one actually. So I know that the two passages that we had, like as a music teacher, I knew that like one where my right hand was supposed to be louder than the other is supposed to be the focus, and then my left hand in this passage is supposed to be the focus, right? How do I how would you do it? Sorry, not how would I. How would you tell uh how would you help your student figure out which hand to bring out?
So okay, my understanding
This
is
is this
that
is like presupposing they don't actually know, like they don't automatically know, like, you know, right hand is the melody or like left hand is the melody or this is the voice you need to bring out. Like how do you help them figure that out from the score?
uh for the left hand here, if or like in general, if like we will see which one is more lyrical. When I say lyrical, I will ask them. Well, usually they don't because they are shy, but I will ask them to try to sing with it. And if it's easier to sing, then most likely it will be melody. And what mostly is like between just like step or skips. And to me, the right hand, the melody is actually like here. I would say that. And then maybe this is another one. Okay. And I think you are involving about talking about a little bit about a variable balance. So it's kind of like in the for the different passage or the parts. It can be like between different. So like to me, this is one character, and then this is the other one, and then we will treat it as like like when we in the movie when we have two characters, and then they will have a different motive in the background music, or they will they're wearing the certain clothes, so you know, okay, this is this character, like Superman and Spider-Man. Like you won't like mix them together. So that's what how I tell them. And for the thing more like complicated like chords, then I just ask them to think about like if there is some very clear clue, like we have the descending chromatic line here, and or just they can just ask them to try several way to see if which sound they prefer. Yeah, because this is to me is like the interpretation is very personal taste, unless it's like very clear that like we have repeated notes. If there's so many repeated notes, probably that's very clear it's not the thing you want to bring out. Imagine like you have your mom keeps saying the same thing to you and it's annoying, so you don't want that. Yeah, is that answering your question?
Yeah, it did. Thank you.
All right, thanks. And so teacher balance in duet piano teaching, duet piano playing, to me it's easier once they know how they do the balance in their solo. So it can be as simple as, okay, here we have a melody line, just mark it up, and then use like certain color. so they know, okay, now this person need to bring out, then I need to fall back. It's more like we will relate it to our active listening again. They need to keep consistently listen to each other and then do the reflection based on what they hear. Yeah. So, well, to me, active listening and betas are a little bit challenging when I teach my students. But to me, it's also very important, and it involves a lot of technique, the physical technique. We can talk about the attack speed, how much weight you put on your keys, how you move your arm, how you use your body. Any questions or any thoughts you want to share when you teach these elements?
It's something you've kind of talked about already, but one thing I noticed when I work with students for the first time on voicing, left hand, right hand, or within a single hand, they really struggle with doing two different sounds at once. So, or even just getting their hands to do two different things. So, do you have any strategies that help just independence of hands? I know you talked about really exaggerating the contrast, but for people who just have a hard time doing two different things, and as a starting point.
I have two approaches for two condition. So if the students online, it's hard for us to do anything for them. But I usually ask them to go to like a table or something, and then you do this. You can see right hand. Okay, but their mission is right hand. Start from here, and then left hand just do this, and the right hand need to slap the table, and then the left hand need to do this, and the drop point need to be at the same time. So left hand just doing this, and then right hand need to do extremely with their arm or something, and switch, something like that. And then usually they will do, the left hand will want to do as hard as right hand as well, but that's fine because they start in the lower point, right? So it'll be sounds very loud, yeah.
I could hear that from all the way over here.
Yeah, so that's when
Clarified, Therese is in the same house.
Yeah, that's what I do for the online teaching. That's the first thing, and you can play again left hand drawing the triangle and right hand do the circle, that kind of thing.
Oh, that's hard. Wow. Yeah, I don't even know if I can do that. I have to think. Okay.
Yeah. And for the in-person, to me this part is actually easier if we have in-person. So I wish I have a partner with me. So both of people. I want to ask Therese come here. So
yeah. Okay. Wait. I'll be right over.
Yay! Flashing my screen. Okay. Therese, your profile is magically there still.
I know.
Got a doppelganger.
And I'm here now too. Hello. Okay.
So we'll do like this, and then I will ask my students to push right hand more and then push left hand less, and at the same time. So it'll be like this. And then I'm trying to feel that, and then tell them, okay, if this is correct or not. Yeah. You wanna try?
Wait, do I just like that?
Yeah. And then at the same time.
I have to push too.
Yeah, it's great.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have balance.
Thank you. Yeah, so this is how I do when I just introduce this concept to them. Yeah, hope that was helpful.
Cool. Yeah, that is really helpful actually. Thanks.
It's actually very fun to do that.
Yeah, it looks like a lot of fun. I'm gonna try it. I totally stole your idea for the smiley face with the wrist, by the way.
Yeah, I found there's an easier way to talk about.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah, because sometimes I was like, okay, you go down and up,
make a circle,
and then left to
clockwise. No, it's just make a smile.
Yeah. Before I use clockwise, I say okay, clockwise and counterclockwise, and then they're like,
yeah,
they will do this
yeah.
Yeah, just smiley face. here to here, like an Amazon, left side to right side, or opposite. Yeah.
Yeah.
And for the top, like for like this way, it'll be easier, like rainbow or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, nice rainbow. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. Just try to grab the thing they know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not something too abstract.
Yeah. Any other questions or feedbacks?
No, it was really interesting. Thanks so much.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
thank you all for coming, and
Yeah.
I will see you guys next time then.
Yep. Talk soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.